And sometimes it's some other times, maybe there isn't underlying reasons. Sometimes we just have where our emotions we're in a certain cycle of emotion for that day or that week or even that month. So there is that piece of it too. And as I said, what we will be talking about is like our own individual path. We've been talking about these different elements of success consciousness and what that means to us, and the comparison and the of others and the individual path that we all can take in this. And I do think that there's, as far as like, I know Colleen and Danny and myself are concerned, when we are in that place, it's also important to share and be authentic and have some vulnerability, because I could have not shared that, but it's real. It was real life that I was in the grocery store buying cheese for my Christmas party later that night. And I, was like, oh, okay, I could cry at any moment here. I can still be kind, but I could cry at any moment here. And I'm now realizing like, oh, that's what that was this weekend, is this extra layer of emotion has to do with just this energetic frequency that, kind of hit my Schumann resonance and was intense, and that's okay.
Well, and I would add to that too, because I think it's one of the things that we do talk about, that it's so important to realize we can be in a place of a state of being internally and still have feelings that feel different than that state of being. So, for instance, I can think in terms of stay stable, be kind, and I may feel unstable and I may feel unkind. And then it's what is on the inside that's keeping that stability in place, and also the ability to be kind. And it's what is so helpful about, like your example, Robyn, of being in the grocery store activating Reiki, because it does help. It also does share and is not dependent on our feelings and emotions or even our state of being, but it can help us with it, and it also helps others. And then in addition, we're managing empathy right now. I know we talk a lot about it in these groups, about empathy, because it's something I see as a teacher and practitioner, that so many of us have such high levels of empathy and sensitivity. And so we can pick up on the energies that other people have left in a space. It can be in our personal life, or something like walking through a grocery store and understanding the nature of thought forms. So if somebody walks through and has this intense energy of their own issues they're managing and feelings they're managing, it can even leave an imprint of a physical thought form. And maybe it only stays for a little bit of time, but that's where we can walk right into that thought form, into the actual energy of it that physically exists in that space, and feel like it's our own. It feels like, oh, this is me feeling this, because we don't always stop and think, oh, wait, I just walked into somebody else's thought form of stress. Or, grocery store to me is one of my big places. And I do try to remember to, activate that field of Reiki around me when I go into places like that, because if you think about it, it seems like such an ordinary thing to do. that everybody's doing, but some people they don't have time. Or as Joe wrote in the chat, the cereal aisle with little kids that you've taken them in with you, or somebody has gone in with their kids and, are completely stressed out by figuring out that part, or maybe they don't have the money they need, or all different kinds of things that people are experiencing in something as ordinary as a grocery store. So as an empathic person, and so when I say I put my field of Reiki light up, and again, I know I'm repeating myself, but it's useful to me to even hear myself say it, to remember to, you can actually draw the symbols. You can use your breath to empower the symbols in the space. You can think them if you can't draw them. If it's totally weird, suddenly you're drawing the power symbols all around you. But I intentionally will place that field of Reiki light around me. And it's different than a shield. It's different than putting something or like a mirror back up. It's different than like a solid wall around you, because it's more of this loving light force energy that is more of a filter. So as external energies come through that filter, by the time they actually get to you, they've transformed, or maybe even don't enter the filter at all. And it leaves you free to be in the energy of your space within that field. So I think of the filter as operating through the authority of love, the authority of compassion for me and those around me. And then with that intention of, whatever yours is, mine right now does really happen to be stay stable, be kind. That is super helpful to me. And all this busyness, and, it can be so chaotic. Navigating through it all and the feelings that can go with it. So then placing that within it can give you your space to be completely present for yourself. And then also as the energy comes through and as your energy goes out. So let's say my intention is to stay stable, be kind. I don't feel kind in the moment. It's not my thought in the moment. But now my energy is also going to diffuse outward through that same filter. And I'm not adding to that, those thought forms out there in the store for other people to pick up on either. So anyway, Robyn, we should probably go into our topic, because I think it's such a good topic. And there's so many to talk about right now. Holidays and end of year and everything that goes with it all at a time with the solstice that we're more inclined to want to rest. And yet we amp up the busyness. So anyway, so Robyn, if you want to go ahead and start on the topic.
It's actually your topic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I thought
journey.
So. Just
yeah, I'm doing the journey today.
Yeah. So just so you know, you guys, when we listen around these topics, we actually do Reiki journeys to listen for what we bring to our distance Reiki shares, and we do them together. And they're organic and channeled and everything else, so they don't always go according to an outline that we've created. A lot of times they don't go according to the outline because we get going on a different subject. But the way that we actually do this is we do go into deep Reiki journeys, just like what we do here in these, what we do in our next step classes, our 12 heavens class, to go deeper into self about what is this and what's going on for all of us right now, people, and all of you as a community. And we know that it's not going to be everybody here going through the same thing. We're all unique. But there is a commonality. And particularly right now, when there is a worldwide collective things that are going on for people, and then astronomical events taking place. So what we have been talking about this last month, starting with the webinar that we did, was really discovering your own unique path and your healing path, your empowerment path, what that looks like. We did some of that starting with the mouse and eagle journey, to be able to view your path from above, from the eagle viewpoint, the mouse viewpoint, and your viewpoint. And then also bringing in the topic of how to use your intuition for any of you that work with spiritual guides that, provide guidance or assistance for you. And then we've also talked about success consciousness and what that means to you. So now looking at your own, embracing your own path, one of the things that has shown up is in embracing your own unique journey. One of the things that I see in clients and discussions is comparison to others, comparison maybe even to yourself at different times. And one of the things that I just recently was working with a person who talked about their circumstance and suffering more than others. I was like, well, actually, if you talk to other people, they're going to have a lot of the same issues that you have. And a lot of people would look at you and think they wish they had what you had. So what that showed me was the challenge when we compare ourselves to others. And sometimes that's helpful and is assessing things. And then other times it can lead to self-doubt, insecurity. We talked about imposter syndrome. I've had this showing up around me with people that have been kind of a heads up for me to observe their comparisons, and from my perspective of them, completely different than their comparison of themselves. And what I think of as like what is authentically their truth. And maybe because I can see into it so easily, working with Reiki all the time, that I see into the depth of people's actual truth and, really see those skills and abilities and capabilities and the gifts and the talents that people have. And so one of the things we thought we would do with the journey today, and it's a fairly long journey that Robyn's going to do, is with the reflection pool. Those of you in the next step classes and the 12 heavens class, we've been doing the reflection pool, but also to let go of some of those comparisons. Sometimes they're even subconscious, like you're not even aware that you're comparing to others. So I would have to say, as we were discussing it, if I'm being completely transparent and authentic, growing up when I did, and even today, my bigger comparison might have been body image. Like, is my body the right comparison? And I'm going to just go ahead and say it. Growing up the way I did, thinking I was fat. And I look back at pictures and I wasn't. But in comparison to what I saw, thinking that was my self-image. And I look back at all of the insecurities I had around that, all of the issues and stories and problems that I established because of it. And then also a lot of the really good habits I created because of it, because, you know, it compelled me to eat well, to, you know, to take care of my physical health, things like that. So there's the discernment there of both things. One is a comparison that's causing me harm. And then the other is the, okay, if this is what I want for myself, these are the steps and the habits to create that achieve that. So, you know, I look back at it and think of how much time wasted on that topic and comparison. And I would also say leading to a lot of limitations that I set up for myself, a lot of self-worth in things that I set up for myself, and insecurities. And so, you know, now by this age, I'm pretty worked through a lot of those. But it still pops up. I went to a party the other night, first time I've been to a party since, like, that kind of a party, since before the pandemic. There were probably 150 people. Well, I got there, they're all younger, and my husband didn't give me the invitation. It was a Barbie party. So here they all were dressed up in, you know, pink and Ken outfits and this whole Barbie theme. And so there I was in just my kind of standard holiday outfit. Luckily, you know, it's pretty neutral. But anyway, I was able to observe myself that I didn't worry about it. And that was kind of I would have to say, a very healed version of myself in comparison to what I might have even thought 4 years ago. And so I was able to be there and thought, well, I didn't get the notice. I probably said it to the first few people because I was trying to cover my bases. Like, nobody told me it was a Barbie party. And I mean, they're coming in with pink sparkles, Ken wigs, the whole thing. I mean, they went all out. The whole house was decorated in Barbie stuff, and it was super cute and really fun. And I just thought, well, I'm not even going to explain it anymore. And, you know, I attribute that to so much of the healing work that I've done in this particular area of comparison. That I would say is a big one. I don't have it in a lot of other areas. And I also personally am not like competitive, that I want to, like, say, I like everybody to do well. So I don't have the thought of, oh, I want to do better than somebody else or look better than somebody else or anything like that. So I don't have those. But this was the one when Robyn and I were talking about it. I thought, yeah, that's probably the one that has been the biggest one. Body image, my whole life. And of course, we can all look back at the healing moments that we need because of it. We can look back at, you know, going back even into childhood with the messaging both from my family, not that they intended to do it, but it happens subconsciously, it happens just organically, my generation, my gender, and then the personal things that I bought into. So where I'm at now, taking this back to today's topic, because mine happens to be body image, but really going within deeply and understanding the places that limit you because of comparison. And then also going to the empowerment that you are on your own unique path and embracing your own unique path. That each of us has our own path, each of us has our own reality, our own perspectives, everything that is present. Comparison is so big right now with social media, because social media, what is put out there is, the idealized versions that most people have of their life and experience. And, I know for myself, that's not a place I want to stick my stuff in, so I'm not likely to put on a social media post, I spent my whole life with body image issues, so just considering that that's what we're seeing from that external source. We see it everywhere. And one of the things I am so grateful for these generations and that particular issue for myself is you do see a whole lot of healing happening around body image, body shaming, all of those things. So anyway, like I say, that's just me being authentic with you guys, sharing what my particular area of comparison is. That was the first one I could really observe. I'm sure I have others, but that was, I would say, was the big lifetime one that I've spent a lifetime healing. So, we work with Reiki energy and letting the energy come in and heal that and heal the different areas. And it can do it in areas we maybe are unaware of. It can also reveal those areas so you become aware of it so you can let it go. And then Reiki energy is going to empower you with who you truly are, what your unique path is, what your true gifts are, what your talents are. And we're going to do that. Robyn's going to do a journey that will be working with that to the reflection pool, and also to look at it from the vision of like creating your own vision of your unique path. And what I like about it with Reiki is that if I just take a notebook and write it down, so let's, again, not to belabor this particular issue, but if I were to look at, okay, I have body image issues, what am I going to do? And I start writing it down, I'm likely going to put eat healthy, exercise, and those kinds of things. But when I go in with Reiki and I look deeper, now I can really see what are the gifts and talents, what are the things I'm going to do to bring forward with my authentic self. Let Reiki empower those for me. So now I'm living from that perspective. Again, it's a process. You can feel differently, but when you go deep and you activate it, it now becomes a cellular activation. It becomes that life force energy that's waking up within you that then begins to guide you. So, Robyn, do you want to add to that? I know the journey is fairly long, so I wanted to make
time. The journey's channeled, so we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah. So no, I don't want to add too much other than I think comparison is a challenging aspect. I think that, there's the quote is that I wish my life was as perfect as you pretend it is on social media or something like that, that we do have this exacerbation of the comparison. However, I do find that it is starting to shift. You have the pendulum always moving back and forth, and balance moving back and forth. That when social media kind of first came out, there was this idea that everything had to be polished and perfect and all of that. But now it's actually going back the other way, that the authenticity is being like, thank you. So, thank you for being authentic, because it does give it permission for others to be authentic. And being on TikTok, for example, you have both, but people being on there in a messy house, or not having makeup, or have just woken up, or, things like that we didn't used to show those sides on social media. And so, I mean, I was a teenager in the 2000s, early 2000s, the early noughts, and comparison was a part of the culture as well. But I do think that Reiki helps us to go within to our authentic self. And in Reiki practices, we have comparison. Why isn't my practice this way or that way? Or this person is doing this, so I wish I was doing that. Those kinds of things in Reiki, or those shoulds, or we see people who do authentically have a lot of peace and calm and kindness because of their years of practice, or maybe a part of their authentic personality, that they feel that way genuinely for a lot of their life. And so, there's that kind of comparison that we can have. And at the same time, not all of us are meant for that path. And this is where Reiki energy helps us to clarify that. It helps us to quiet the noise, helps us to go within and without. And even, having the Reiki energy give us those answers for ourselves when we can't see it for ourselves, or enlightened guides that help us with that when we can't see it for ourselves. It can see it, others can see it. So this is what the reflection pool helps us to do, is that it is actually a space in which we can go into the energy, have this place that helps us to see outside of our reflection that we see in the mirror, right? It is our spirit that it helps us see. And what it can do is, once it quiets that noise, quiets who we think we should be, or the things that we're not doing, because a lot of times those are the loudest voices in our head. When it quiets that, it helps us to clarify, or to step forward into the confidence within ourselves that you are a unique being on the planet, and that's important and that matters, and that you have gifts and talents. And when we say that, we're not saying gifts and talents such as you can sing well or you can write well. Well, maybe that too, but they're proverbial, they're greater than that. They are, the love that you offer. They are the kindness that you are. They are the things that your spirit brought to the planet. And how can you empower those and let go of all of the words that have been said in our culturally created self, whether that is to you by others, whether that is words that you took on by the culture itself, or whether that's the words that you say to yourself, right? And so what is that? There's that beautiful spirit with underneath that all, that is pure love. And how do you go into the empowerment and the remembering of that, so that you can take a step forward in your own gifts and talents. And as we've said, your own unique path, because when you do that, it not only anchors that consciousness onto the planet and adds more of that frequency onto the planet, but it also gives others permission to do the same. It also, your voice is there, your perspectives are there for others, and that brings healing to the planet. But it also has to start with ourselves first. And even if it's to one person, even if it's just to yourself, that does bring those frequencies onto the planet, and that matters, let alone in your family and friends, let alone in your work, let alone in your community, let alone in your Reiki practice. And maybe if you are a practitioner or have a business, let alone all of that. So that is a part of what these things can do. And this will be released on YouTube on the solstice. We're 2 days away from the solstice, the return to the light. The sun is also making sure of that this weekend, as we were saying earlier. So, we are, well, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere. I know you are in the abundance of summer in the Southern Hemisphere. And so there's the difference within those cycles. And it's an opportunity for these intentions. It's an opportunity to go within that cycle and listen to the cycles of the earth, listen to the cycles that you may be in personally. And then we also come into the new year, at least in here in the this culture. I know it's not the new year for all cultures, but we come into the new year, which generally speaking, we have a tradition of intention setting, right? Letting go of the past or the old and bringing in the new intent and setting intentions for that. And so it is an opportunity within both timeframes, within this time frame, to do that. However, sometimes what we need to do first is release the noise of any sort of culturally created self so that we can move into that place in our authentic way through our authentic self and hear the energy and hear that place that's deep inside. I do want to also add that I don't know how much we've announced it in this group, but we will be having a burning bowl ceremony here at the Distance Reiki Share on January 9th. We do that at the new year every year. It's kind of like our gratitude ceremony where we do it around every Thanksgiving. We do the burning bowl also around every new year. So it's January 9th. You're already signed up for the Distance Reiki Share list, so you don't need to sign up again. We'll just do that at 9:30 a.m. Pacific. So same time, same everything. And it's another opportunity for this kind of work as we are releasing layers that are ready to be released, bringing in these things that we're ready to step into. Sometimes those stepping into are big. Other times they can be small, and that's okay. So allow it to be what it is for you. And that's okay. And that's beautiful. That's as it should be. Doesn't have to be these giant leaps. Doesn't have to be these giant things. It can be, but also if it's something small, if it's something that's just true to you that you're hearing for you, also know that that is just as important as the big things.